IVM.
Roughly 2 weeks ago from today, I found myself on a website that sold products that were sustainable, that were plastic free, and were easy replacements to plastic and a lot of plastic waste that we generate on a day to day life. Now, I'm a huge fan of Greta Thunberg because of the massive shadow she has cast on all of us, and her opinion, and her strength, and her inspiration to everyone across the globe. But honestly, I know that I'm a very flawed person. But I know for a fact that all my life I've been the carry your dabba and your cutlery and your water bottle to places kind of a person. So I wanted to step up. I wanted to do something more. I wanted to see how many products in my house I could replace with something that is sustainable and that does not cause a harm to the environment. And turns out most of them can be replaced. But a very interesting thing happened when I was on the website scrolling, that I found out that they have an entire program where for every order they would plant a tree, and you can also additionally have an extra tree planted only for 89 rupees. I was curious to see where are these trees planted. I followed the coordinates that were listed, and the name of the place read very familiar. It took me 3 seconds to register that if I buy anything off this website, a tree is going to be planted in a place called Surav, which is where my maternal grandmother was born. Now, I haven't been to Surav ever since, almost 7-8 years. It's been 7-8 years since I've actually been there. But the idea of me not only doing something good for myself, but also for the village that my grandmother lived in for a major part of her life, played a very big role in the kind of purchases I made that day. But of course, there was more. I wanted to figure out, where do I begin? The idea of a sustainable life sounds very, very exciting, but also confusing at times. How do you go about it? And in extension, how do you make a whole company that thrives on getting artisans and getting different creators under one roof so that more people can have access to sustainable products all in one place? And also have packaging that is completely recyclable. To answer all of these questions on today's episode of Litnama, we have with us, right after this short break, the founder and CEO of Brown Living, Chaitsi Ahuja.
Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, Don Bradman, and now Cyrus Brocha. Okay, probably not in the right company. I mean, Don Bradman is Australian. But it's called Cyrus Says, a wonderful show about everything. Find the show on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hello, Chaitsi. Welcome to Litnama.
Hi.
Hi. This has been a long time coming because I've loved your work with Brown Living, and all this while I was looking for that story that could allow me to sort of host you on Litnama, and I realized that one phone call that we had, just me introducing the concept and you telling me about your journey, was the story that we all needed to hear. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being here.
And I have a bunch of questions for today, but primarily it's very introspective in nature because I remember sometime last year, or last year in fact, Lil Flea had this entire section where they were doing environment-based poetry.
Yeah.
So I was very intrigued, right? Because the theme about it was around sustainability, was about low waste, was about living a better life also for the environment and your carbon footprint. And it was beautiful to hear how literature has also sort of evolving into this conversation and covering all the bases when it comes to understanding and redefining sustainability. But what always wins for me is the personal victories and the personal stories around how did someone figure their way out. And you started Brown Living out of it. I'm just so curious. So what was your story? How did you end up in this space where you were like, okay, now I need to make the change, which might just change my life?
Thank you so much. I think that's a very beautiful take on sustainability because a lot of my awareness about sustainability came from documentaries, from movies, from poems that were spoken at events like that. And it's also very interesting to note that I've also been part of creating a certain amount of waste as part of my jobs in the past. And uh, I was part of a beach cleanup movement. I also have done a few months together in China for a work project, vegetarian, so that's a difficult thing to do. And at the time, there was a lot of environmental laws that were coming in from the Chinese government, and as part of my job, I started reading up a lot about sustainability and why is the government banning chemical dyeing factories, and also having a textile background myself, I realized that my dad, when I was growing up, used to wake up to these calls in the middle of the night and had to go to his factory to figure out what is it that is polluting the water that is going out of the factory. And it just sort of was like not just one moment, but a series of moments that happened to me in the past 3-4 years that led me to believe that there is a better way of consuming things and there is a better way to produce those things. And there was this whole movement about climate change, and Fridays for Future started happening. People started striking about trees getting chopped down, the Amazon forests getting burnt down. Brands that use palm oil were sort of getting boycotted because palm oil comes from palm trees, which are now grown in a mass region, and that's leading to a lot of deforestation and sort of mixing up deforestation and messing up with the equilibrium of the environment. So there were multiple things that I went through. I saw a lot of movies. I took up a few courses that were free for any consumer to check up. I could share the list right at the end. And what it made me realize is that a lot of us come from a place of unawareness, and we just get caught up in just consuming what is easily available to us, and at any corner store or any website that we use, or like websites like Amazon that are just making deliveries so quick and so convenient for everybody that we've stopped looking at the whole art of creating the product itself, or asking questions like who is the person who's made this. So I got very interested in understanding production methods. I got very interested in understanding materials. That's how I started making my own products at home. I started doing a course in how to make your own skincare, and I then remembered that my grandmother used to give me these lapes and uptans to use, which was simply made from home ingredients, which we use in our kitchen. And it just made me realize that, we have these great Ayurvedic recipes, or we have these home nuskhas. And why is it that we go to a store and buy something that's packaged in a plastic bottle? There's Rita, which you can use for washing your hair, and there's salt that you can use with a little bit of baking soda to just clean out your teeth. You don't need a toothpaste, really. Back in the day, people used to have datun instead of a toothbrush. I don't know why it was invented in the first place. So, there are so many products like this that started to get my attention, and I said, okay, what if I was born in an era that used all these products, and how would it be to adapt my lifestyle to have a low carbon impact, almost a zero plastic footprint. And so I took this project up for myself. My family first thought that I was a little mad, and they're like, why are you not throwing out your wet waste, and why are you composting at home, and why do you have so many plants in the house? We have a garden down in the building. We don't need these things. And I just kept doing my thing. And over time, when they saw that how much waste we are reducing in terms of what actually gets thrown out, they actually sort of started appreciating these changes, and they started asking me, Acha, how do I compose? What is it that I should do? What does this go in the dry waste, or does this go in the wet waste? So it's a very interesting family journey. It's not just a person's journey, and I can't emphasize more on this. So that's where it all started. And over time, when I started interacting with small labels and brands that are working in this space, I'm a very curious person, and I don't shy away from asking somebody, what motivated you to do this. And it just so happened that I became such good friends with founders of these companies, just because we sort of clicked, and we asked the right relevant questions, and could have like extremely meaningful conversations around, what is it that we can do to save the earth from depleting and degrading into a land of plastic. So that's how I started, finding solutions on how is it that we can help these brands. How is it that I can apply my skill set, of marketing and digital and understanding of product creation, and build something that people can have access to, and the brands benefit from it, the customers benefit from it, and sort of put a service together that brings forth all earth-friendly products that you can use and get easily access to. You don't have to wait for a flea market to happen. You don't have to wait for, DMing somebody on Instagram, and then, it's an entirely automated system that we've created that puts forth all these brands in one platform. So anything and everything that you need to live a sustainable life is what we've curated together at Brown Living. And that's essentially my entire journey so far.
So I have like multiple trains of thoughts running in my mind. First was about how I, at a very basic level, I realized I think we were out of school by the time the entire conversation about segregating dry and wet waste started in schools and colleges.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid, we used to, those brown covers we used to get when we were in school.
Yeah.
I remember there used to be like this plastic film on it, right? Which we all used to sort of pluck out. And it used to be so amusing. But I realized as I was growing up that this is such a huge problem because you can't even get rid of those covers properly since they have a plastic film on it. And my mother used to wrap our books in these craft paper brown papers. Okay, so like the ones they used to make those boxes, which are made out of recycled paper. Now, this happened because that paper was accessible to her, not because, she didn't really initially put a lot of thought saying, oh, this is sustainable, so I'm going to use this. But I feel as a generation now, we are getting very conscious about what do we use, how do we use it. And like you rightly said, we had to wait for a flea market to, get straws and brushes and everything. And I remember the first time I switched the brush at home to a bamboo toothbrush, and my father lost it. And he was like, how am I supposed to brush with this? I'm like, you're not. I'm doing it. I will take care of it. And gradually they started realizing, what that shift does. And one of the primary things I heard from him was this upcoming generation is also a problem to us because they sort of feel sandwiched, right? They were the generation that was told to make the shift from sustainable, like say using ash to wash your utensils to using like your soaps and like just everything. They went from shikakai to shampoo, and now we are like, go back to shikakai. And it's so confusing. So how did you get your family on board?
So that's a very interesting story. When I started this journey of zero waste living, I've been married, and I don't live with my parents anymore, but I live with my in-laws. And they have a lot of delegation of work when it comes to, either getting groceries. So my father-in-law gets a list from my mother-in-law, and then he goes and buys it, but he doesn't actually go and pick them. He just has his guy who he goes to, just gives him a call, and the guy packs it and keeps it ready, and he just picks it up and drops it home. And one day there was an incident where it was during this lockdown that it's during the lockdown it's become really difficult to get plastic free produce. Otherwise, there are some zero waste stores that you can get your produce from, or you can go to a Reliance Mart or a supermarket like that and just take how much you need. But even those supermarkets don't let you carry your own containers. So it's been a little tough during this pandemic and lockdown. But we're trying to minimize as much plastic containers or plastic packaging that we can get. So one day, my father-in-law comes home with 15 bags of different vegetables packed in an individual plastic bag. And I happen to just step out of my desk and I see like 15 plastic bags. And I'm like, Dad, what is this? And he's like, Bachi, I've got, vegetables. And I'm like, but this is all come in plastic. I'm sorry, we can't accept this. And he's like, why? And I'm like, you know what I'm trying to do with my work. And you know that we're trying to tell the whole world to not use plastic as much as possible. And here we are, consuming this. And I have no shame in sharing this story. But the point is that day I picked out all the vegetables and I put it outside the door. And I told him that this is the last time that this is coming. If you forget to carry your bag, please come back home, get the bag, and then buy your vegetables, because I'm sorry, we can't accept this. And that day he really turned around and he said, I now realize that what you've been trying to do for the past couple of, months is really taking shape, and I know we should care about it more, and I'm sorry. And since the next day, he's made sure he's put that little paper, paper bag or a, fabric tote in his pocket, and he carries it around every time he steps out, just like you carry a mask as well. So I think that it's just about finding the right thing that ticks with them. They are also going through a life change while they are in a phase where they are supposed to settle down. The ways you deal with everything is now become different because of the new normal that we are in. And they've always been this generation where there's been industrial revolution, there's been globalization, and there's been so many different brands that have come in. There's so much change in terms of the environment in general. There's so much tech that happened. So they've been the generation that have been the sandwich, like you said, really. And I think they're pretty adaptive. If you just try to make sense out of something and explain why is it that you need to do this, I think they get it. You just have to be really clear on what is your mission behind it, or why is it that you want to make a change in the way they live or the way you live. And I'm quite sure that it happens. So the other thing that you mentioned about the book paper and the craft paper that we used to use when we would cover up notebooks back in school, we thought that it was a paper, but it was actually layered with a plastic film, which over time sort of bruised itself, and you would see bubbles, and you would itch to sort of peel it off. That's one of the reasons why it's very difficult to recycle that material, because it's infused with plastic. There are so many products today that have been infused with a layer of plastic, to either retain moisture or to protect it from water, or make sure that whatever content it has, say it's a food product, then it remains fresh. But we've not had the need for this up until our grandparents used to live, because we used to consume everything fresh. The reason is that the more fresher the thing is, the better it is in terms of nutrients. With our entire urban lifestyle change of traveling and being on the go all the time, people want to have snacks that are in small bite size wrappers. People want to carry or just take something on the go, because we don't want to take the time to sort of sit and have a good meal, or take the time out to carry our own containers to buy something. I think it's a huge. I think it's happened because of the entire lifestyle change that we've had, which is almost always affected by the way the world in the West functions. So, talk about fast
Yeah.
fashion, talk about fast food chains. Um, there's so much that we've forgotten about the way we used to live. And it's just, I think this lockdown and this pandemic has taught us how to slow down a bit. So many of the men that uh, I know have actually started helping out in household chores, started cooking themselves. I'm not trying to stereotype genders, but I know in general that a lot of men of the house don't sort of always do bartan. And, uh, the fact that during this time, a lot of us have started taking charge of our kitchens, our waste, because we don't have, housemaids or people taking care of, what gets cooked and what gets thrown out. It's a very interesting time to change habits and start looking at what we generate as waste as a household. And we also did a small session about this on how to start composting. And this is one of the things that is pretty easy. You can actually use every inch of the food waste that you sort of, even whether it's vegetable peels or whether it's wrappers or essentially everything. So that's
No, I'm just like thinking right now about like first of all, like kudos for brown living, because I remember the time I was scrolling through the website and I found a chessboard which is like completely made out of wood. And my chess memories are those, those flimsy plastic covered polished boards that we used to get,
yeah.
and those plastic coins on top. And I never thought chess could be, or like any toy for that matter, could be sustainable until I spoke to my mother, and she was like, this is how we had access to a lot of things back in the day. Like, she doesn't remember milk covers until she, got married and moved out. And then milk started coming in those packets, because she was like, we used to take our glass containers, go and stand at a queue for RA
Yeah.
milk. And that is how we've worked all our lives. And it just makes me really curious as to now when you talk about composting, especially in Mumbai, right? Because our spaces are comparatively a little more compact than you would expect, because back in our native place, they just used to throw all the kitchen waste out into the open land, and it would somehow magically become manure, and you used to get produce fresh off the trees. But like, have you had people come up to you saying that I want to compost, but I don't know how to? And like, how do you deal with a situation where someone is talking about like real tangible problems that are stopping them from, sort of jumping on like a plastic free lifestyle? Or are those real problems not as real as they think we are?
It's actually a bit of both. If you
Okay.
have made up your mind that you want to compost, you almost always will, because it's very simple. It doesn't take any time. So instead of just throwing all your food waste into the bin when you peel them or chop them, just keep them in one container, and you keep layering it every day, every time you have wet waste. So yes, I have had a few people ask me, how do I compost? And we've almost always had answers to that. We've made cleaners at home with, simple water, jaggery, and lemon peels. And we don't need Lysols or, any floor cleaners anymore. So there's so many interesting things that you can make at home without going to a store to buy. Uh, I also I also remember that there was a time when we used to have cobblers and we used to have key repairmans, and we used to have
Yeah.
almost everything used to get repaired and not discarded and brought new. Uh, all these guys are out of jobs right now because we've switched to a very discard only life. Um, and that has also led us to look at consumption very differently. We now buy uh, clothes that are not very expensive, but we keep buying them more often. We succumb to fashions and trends and fads, and which makes us buy a new set of clothes every 3 months or every 6 months. But if you've noticed in the lockdown, most fashion brands have said that they've had like a massive hit in sales, and that's because people don't need so many clothes. Uh, the
Yeah.
fact that the economies are going down when people are buying only essentials has to tell you something, and that something is that we don't need so many things. We're actually just fine with basic essential stuff. And we almost always have enough with us stored because we've hoarded over all these years. And uh, it's actually very simple to live sustainably. It actually saves you a lot of money. It's because you buy things that last longer. They are not expensive because you replace them with five things versus one. So I think that's a very interesting take on sustainability, because most people think that, okay, I need to buy this bamboo toothbrush, but it costs four times the cost, and it looks weird. So how is this better for the environment? Because I'll have to buy more of these. But it's better for the environment because it's not going to, leave a footprint behind. Or if you have to
Yeah.
buy a piece of clothing which is made of organic cotton, it's not going to leave a trace behind, and it's actually the most comfortable thing that you can wear. It comes in simple solid colors which you will probably wear more often because it doesn't stand out as much, and it helps you live minimally. And the less cluttered your life is, the more you have time to think about things that matter to you. So that's my take on this.
That's such a Mary Kondo gone sustainable
Oh, I love
take
her.
on
She's
things.
my
And
god.
and I guess decluttering also reminds me that we need to take a break in the conversation. And once we come back, we can talk about Mary Kondo, how to save money, and also accessibility in sustainability.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money. Some really fun guests on the network this week. Cyrus welcomed Dia Mirza to come and have a conversation about all kinds of different things. Danny Morrison was on Edges and Sledges, the cricket podcast. If you haven't heard that, that's always a fun listen. And Raul Subramanian was on Football Should Ball to grow their ever more exciting list of guests. And it's not just that. Mantra Mugdha, old friend of ours, was on Advertising is Dead. Manu Pillai was on the Filter Coffee podcast. It's been one great guest after the other. And with that, let's get you on with your show.
So, Chaitsi, I remember like we were talking about fast fashion, right? And the reason why I sort of want to talk about sustainability more often on Litnama is also because I've come to realize like a lot of these up and coming narratives and even films are now moving towards showing more sustainable options. Like, I don't know if you've watched Grace and Frankie. I mean, I am a connoisseur of all obscure things that one can watch on Netflix. So in Grace and Frankie, she talks about like Frankie, the character is entirely about environment and sustainability, and she fights against her best friend's daughter and her company because they're using palm oil in one of the products that she has produced from yam. And her idea of producing that product was so that it is sustainable and it is on a higher price point and includes palm oil, and that really really upsets her, which sort of sort of like clicks a lot of buttons for me because a say as a student when I was trying to make that shift on a personal scale, because I realized I need to change a lot on my personal level before I get my family on board. So carrying tote bags was a normal. You can at any point, if I'm outside, I have a bag on me at any cost. So I generally invest in like bigger bags that can have more space to carry things so that I don't invest in plastic bags. And one welcome change that we have seen is also the fact that now stores sort of give you a really high price point on plastic bags. So you have to pay like we spoke about, like you have to pay 20 rupees, 30 rupees to get a huge plastic bag to carry your grocery home. So it sort of already has made people shift to cloth bags. But one question I always have is sometimes what we deem as sustainable, what is eco-friendly, um, is sometimes too expensive. I feel like some brands who are now moving towards the sustainable angle of living. Do you think like the price point is super high? Because I'm almost always conflicted between spending 4,000 rupees on a Rita infused shampoo as opposed to just getting a lot of Rita in 40 rupees.
Oh,
So how do you navigate that space at Brown Living as well?
please tell me where you got the 4,000 rupee shampoo because I've never heard of it.
I'll send you links. Oh God, I'm a regular at these please, right? And you'll see like all spectrums of
Yeah.
I'm talking about an entire kit. I don't remember the brand, but I remember the entire kit that they had, which had a shampoo and a conditioner, which was roughly at that price point.
So, uh, to answer your question, I think zero waste living and sustainability initially were taken on as practices to reduce spending and households. I remember that we as Indians have always almost lived zero waste. You We've always had hand-me-downs if we've had like a couple of siblings, and clothes used to become pochas, and food waste. If you talk about vegetables, then मटर की सब्जी का छिलका उसका भी सब्जी बनेगा, केले का छिलका का भी सब्जी बनेगा, and it's not something that people do when they want to spend more, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because it changes your perspective in buying the products that will last you longer. So if you're, but especially looking at fast fashion, if you're comparing fashion to a brand like Zara, H&M, Forever 21, and all their price points are under 2,000, 3,000. But how long do those clothes last? What is the stitching quality like? What are the conditions that are what is a working environment for a person who makes clothes for these brands? There's a very interesting movie called The True Cost, which actually shows you inroads of in Dhaka and China and in India are made to work for extremely long hours, paid really low wages, and what the brand gets out of it is a massive profit margin, and the maker gets peanuts against it. So sustainability is not just about getting the right eco-friendly product, but it's also looking at who is making these products and are they paid fairly? Are they given an environment that any human deserves? It's basic ethics of creating a business environment. So one of the things that we also look at Brown Living is, who is the maker of the product? Does the brand empower a community of people by giving them jobs that pay them well, by giving them an environment where they work and they like working because it's supporting their family? They have, decent working hours and they have enough breaks. They have a great working environment in general. So I think all of us agree that all of us want to be paid well. This pandemic has also shown us times where a lot of us have, had salary cuts and job losses. But imagine somebody who's working for a garment manufacturer who's always lived like that. Think about it. So you're not really paying for the garment a higher price, but you're just making sure that the person who's made this is paid well, and you're just supporting that cause while you're supporting a lifestyle that you want to lead. So it's actually a holistic aspect of, taking a little step back and, okay, if you wanna really live sustainably, would you buy something that you will wear 5 times a month versus something that you will probably wear once and discard? And how is it that you find a way to include more of sustainability in your wardrobe? and buy less, but buy good quality, sustainable pieces.
True. I guess one thing that I think we spoke about this before as well, and like before this conversation was like how the networks would also work when it comes to sustainability, right? Like when you see these um, big brands sort of turning towards sustainability, or say why I like shopping with you, or why I would any day prefer a brand, is because there's complete transparency as to who's making this, which brand. Because I remember reading on your website about how you've listed your products down and you said it is made by XYZ brand, and that sort of clarity is really essential. And do you think, like, was that intentional to also always mention like who's the creator and who's like putting in the groundwork, as opposed to say you seeing this one H&M conscious piece on a rack at some corner in a huge 2-floor H&M?
No, I absolutely think that people who make stuff have a beautiful skill, and they should be appreciated for what they do. And as a brand, we also want to focus on creating a marketplace and not creating a brand. So I don't call Brown Living a brand, and we don't have any of our own products. We are a curated marketplace, which means that anybody who makes a sustainable product and has a plastic-free packaging is more than welcome to, list with us, and we want to make sure that they get the best out of it.
Yeah.
So it's intentionally built in a way that the brand gets as much attention as they should get for the work that they've done. We talk about their stories, we talk about their journeys on what motivated them to create a brand like this, or why is it that they're doing what they're doing, and that I think is a beautiful story to tell. And the other aspect about this is that how do you make sustainability affordable? So a lot of brands today who are in this space are trying to minimize their profits, not keep high margins, and make the price point a little affordable. So there are, sustainable labels who sell clothing ranging from 2,000 to 3,000 rupees. And there are also sustainable labels who, for the same materials, take a price of 6,000 to 7,000 rupees. But that's absolutely fine. That's the brand stake. But the point being, it has to come from the business itself. It's part of circular design, and circular design in the sustainability space means that you look at the product entirely from design to creation to materials used to methods used to produce it, and how accessible do you want to make it as a product. So if you talk about, do I want more bamboo toothbrushes to be available? Yes, but what is it that we can do? The more people buy, it's simple economics. The more people buy, the price will reduce eventually. And we'll make sure that the same maker who was making these in a small batch will eventually grow to making larger batches, and then have economies of scale, and then pass on that price to a consumer like us. So we are just in a phase where this is picking on as a movement, and we just need to give it a little more time and make sure that we keep sharing insights and talking to people about what their take is. It's not just about saying, okay, you need to switch and this is what you need to get, but really getting into the motivation of why we need to switch to sustainability. And government policies are there. There has been a few bans on plastic. There's recently a law for all e-commerce companies and as well as brands that sell offline to make sure that they mention country of origin on all products. So whether it's an Amazon or whether it's a Flipkart, they all need to mention where the product is made and by who. And I think that's a great step. But what we need to do as consumers is make sure that we ask this question every time we buy something. And that will really help brands get more transparent about their practices. And we've already seen that happen for a lot of brands. And it's just a matter of time that sustainable products, even though they're slightly more expensive right now, will eventually become more affordable the more they become mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, I was also thinking about the recent law and order changes that have been going on around
Yeah.
sustainability. Something as recent as Fridays for Future's website being blocked. I mean, there is so much around it that needs a whole another episode to have a
Yeah.
conversation. But one very positive thing that I see is the youth today, or especially teenagers today, are so proactive when it comes to standing up for the environment. And I've seen so many of them be very conscious, but at the same time, like, they're on a very tight budget.
Yeah.
So if someone has to start from the bare basics, if I'm someone who wants to make the shift, for example,
Hmm.
how would you recommend that from your personal journey as well as your journey with Brown Living? Where does someone start?
So the first thing is to start doing an audit, and it will definitely help you find things that you definitely need and things that you think that you can do without. So Marie Kondo, the whole piece. Like, look at your wardrobe, look at your, toiletries, look at your skincare, look at everything in your living room. Do you need so much? Or first understand, do you have so much? And whatever new you need to buy, think about if you really need it. And if you do need it, is there a sustainable alternative available for it? For example, if you're going to buy towels, yes, you get towels that are made with polyester fibers, and there are towels that are made with natural cotton fibers, and they are better absorbent, they're better for your skin, they smell better. So just look at so what I do is I do a monthly audit. I haven't honestly bought clothes in the past 2 years unless extremely necessary. And that really helps because I've found new ways to wear my clothes. I borrow my husband's shirt to layer up if I think that my clothes are a little, they need layering, or if I think that I need to wear a certain color to a certain meeting, then I find a way to ask a few friends if they have that color and I borrow it. You don't always need to buy clothes. And I've learned that in the past 3 years that I have not shopped. What you can also do is do a bathroom audit. And by that, I mean, look at all the products that you're using. A lot of people have a lot of skincare, which they use maybe once a week. And they think that they really, really need it, but they never throw it out. And by the end of it, it's expired and you've had to trash it anyway. So find products that are multi-use. So you can use rose waters as a mist. You can use it as a toner. You can use it as just something to moisturize your skin. Coconut oil is something that works great for sunburns, for moisturizing.
Yeah.
It works as an essential oil if you want to make your own soap at home. So just look at what is it that you can change in the way you live every day. And these are also trigger points, right? Because every day you brush your teeth, every day you wash your face, and just having something sustainable in your hand, which is almost like a ritual. Like you brush your teeth every day, you hold a bamboo toothbrush and you'll realize, oh my God, this is a great change that I've done. It's almost like when you're on a diet and you need constant reminders that you need to keep eating healthy. It's very similar to that. So if you're going to college, for example, and you have cups that you use, the paper cups that you get in a canteen and you just fill water. Instead of that, if you can just carry your own bottle, you have to invest in one stainless steel container bottle that you can carry every day with you, which will keep your water cool also, and you don't need to spend $20 every time you want to buy a bottle of water. So it's actually extremely cost effective, and it also reminds you to be mindful about everything you're consuming. So carry your own cutlery, carry your own tote bag. You could also start composting at home. It's pretty simple. Just make sure that you don't throw out any of your food waste. These are the small changes that you can do at home, and there's enough and more content on YouTube available on how to compost. So you can check those guys out. One thing I would recommend is really, really check out Daily Dump Compost. They do some great work in this space. And You can also start by watching a few documentaries that I think will really change the way you think about sustainability. So if you want to know about skincare, then you can watch Toxic Beauty. It's available on YouTube. They talk about all the contents that are there in skincare brands that claim to be clean beauty, and it'll blow your mind. Uh, the other thing that you can do is maybe try to go vegetarian, or if you want to far fetch it, then go vegan for once a week and see how you feel. You don't have to become entirely vegan overnight or vegetarian overnight, but if you can just try to change your diet a little bit, to include those earth-friendly meals in your everyday life, then that's another reminder that you can set for yourself. Okay, say Tuesdays are vegetarian days, then what is it that you can do? And every Tuesday, then you get reminded of what you need to consume. A very interesting book that I read was The Prosperity Paradox. This talks about how innovations can lift nations out of poverty. And what I really liked about that book is it talks about how you can change and uplift a society by not donating to an NGO, but making sure you create more jobs. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with sustainability. So that's another thing to take back.
This is just okay. I'm just going to finish writing my notes in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And I think, as someone who has made a switch from makeup remover to coconut oil, because coconut oil is magical, I think that is like the most effective thing you can.
Coconut and banana are my favorite fruits because nothing goes to waste from these two plants.
Yeah.
Just brilliant.
As someone who's a Tamilian, coconut plays a huge part of my heritage, and I now know why. Because I think the most magical thing that could happen to your skincare or makeup routine is just knowing your coconut oil well and seeing how it works for you. It just can take care of everything, every single need. I think for me, like, it's coconut and aloe vera as opposed to coconut and banana, because both of them are really, really so good. I think I'm going to experiment with banana more often in terms of how can it sort of take over a different area of skincare altogether. But I think Toxic Beauty is where I'm going to start my homework from. And I'm just so grateful for all the tips and tricks that you've given us today. And I hope that even if at least one person in this like listening to this conversation today makes that switch, I think we would have succeeded, you know, in a different scale
that's
altogether.
why I exist. I don't want you to buy anything from me. Okay. But if I can just help you, handhold you to make a switch and start thinking about how you consume, I've done my job. And that's why I thought that this was a very interesting way to do that. Thank you so much, Laxmi, for having me. And it's been a pleasure to talk about all these things. They're really, really special to me. And I am very, very happy that you were interested in talking about it.
I'm just eternally grateful because I've been following your work for a while now, and I just thought that, like, it's time where we start this conversation on every level, right? You don't have to go to a particular space or like a channel even to hear more about how can you make your practice or your existence itself sustainable. And I'm just super grateful that a lot of these individuals who I have looked up to for guidance, for like understanding how to do this better, have always been people who are more than ready to help individuals out into how do you go about your world in a very sustainable fashion. I mean, Plastic Free July is a dream that someday I would love to achieve, but until then, I'm just going to take small, steady steps. I guess that also really helps affect the big picture. I'm really grateful that you agreed to have this conversation too. Thank you, Chaitsi. It's been so brilliant.
Thank you so much.
And also, we'll be dropping the links to the courses that you recommend in the description. Yes. So that is something everyone should most definitely check out. And where can we find you on the internet?
The website is called brownliving.in.
Okay. And the same is on Instagram? Yes. Perfect. I can't wait to see more amazing things, and I have my eyes set out for your curation that you're doing currently on social media. So
Thank you.
I hope to see you soon once all of this is over.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Hi guys, this is Ayushi.
And I am Ritasha.
And welcome to Agla Station Adulthood.
It's a fun podcast we've got going on, and we'd love for you to tune in and enjoy with us.
Join us as we stop at various stations and discuss different topics that seem to be bothering us and hopefully
Dating,
you as well.
relationships, beauty, just being an adult, lots of different things.
We don't have a great grip on it, but we've done okay so far.
Catch Agla Station Adulthood every Thursday on the IVM app, the IVM website, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
Do you wish you were smarter? Well, so do we. But the next best thing?
We could make you sound smarter.
And to help you with this endeavor, we are Simplified, a podcast that attempts to break down the complex world around you with a little knowledge, a lot of poor jokes, and a ton of random trivia.
Episodes out every Monday.
On the IVM podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.
See ya!